That's an interesting sign.
Thanks, man.
Are you interested in doing an interview?
Sure, why not?
Cool. Let's
Come on over here.
Okay, sure.
Is there a camera involved?
Well, yeah, it's
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, who's this for?
started a YouTube channel called Nuance Bro, and I go to political rallies and I ask people, what do you believe in, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, why don't... These are some of the other organizers here that we should also get in. Can we do that?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, you guys want to do an interview? Okay.
I don't know if you want to bring the sign or not, but
Sure.
yeah.
Actually, Iris, do you want to hold your sign up for the interview? No? Okay.
Probably not best to get the kids in the shot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, sure.
All right. Yeah, so we'll stand here with the sun, and then yeah, so we'll be right here.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. Exposure good and everything?
Just a sec. There you go.
Recording?
Yep.
So why are we out here today?
Well, my understanding is that 2,342 kids are effectively missing. We don't know where they are. We don't know how to get them back to their parents. And I'm tired of this shit. It's a poorly thought out policy followed by chaos and incompetence. And I think a lot of people are fed up.
Sure. I mean, so those kids, I believe those are the ones who actually came here by themselves, the ones who were lost. They were...
See, this is part of the chaos as well. I'm hearing mixed reports on that, but none that are so mixed that there isn't a grain of clarity in all of this. What winds up happening, on my understanding here, is that once parents get pulled from kids, the kids become unaccompanied minors and get reclassified accordingly. So this is not unaccompanied minors.
I was told it was. I'm pretty sure it is.
We should check on that.
Sure.
Because my understanding is that these are unaccompanied minors, if they are, on account of their parents being stripped from them.
So as far as the, you have this other part of this sign which says nation states are for assholes.
Yeah.
What's the point? What does that mean?
It's an old Frank Zappa reference.
So I mean, what does it mean?
It comes from a Frank Zappa song where the lyric says, "Broken hearts are for assholes."
What is it? I still don't understand like the meaning behind it.
Well, let's just ask the question because this was the sign that drew you here for the interview.
Yes.
So what was it about this that for you said, we should talk to this person about this
It seems like a pretty provocative statement, I would guess. And it seems very counter to what most people, I feel like, believe in the world. Do you agree or disagree with that kind of sort of statement?
My inclination is to think that Borders was a 90s bookstore. I don't mean that the nation state is completely dead, but it's increasingly being overrun by transnational flows of capital and culture. And I read many of the elections in Western democracies recently as reactions to what we might just call global capitalism. And the dilemma now is that now it's not only capital and culture that are flowing across borders, but the bodies that are byproducts of the capitalist machinery that produces global wealth.
So I'm confused. Do you find that a good thing or a bad thing?
It depends. Some days I think this is actually a good thing because this is what needs to happen. I think that the wealthy post-industrial elites need to see the effects of their foreign policies as well as their business transactions. And part of that is the bodies that show up and say, sometimes even washing up, saying, we can't live in the world that you've left us with.
So as far as the biggest reason for why you're here, would you say that, the 2,300 number as far as the ones that are unaccounted for, would that be like the top reason, top three, or what would you say?
I wouldn't say that at all. The reason why I'm here is this little girl over here who's 3.5 years old. And I want her to see that if she sees something in the world that she finds frustrating, that she wants to learn more about, that there are still places she can go other than the internet to figure this out.
So under the Obama administration, they lost, I think, over 4,000 children under these same sort of circumstances. Did you come out and protest when that happened?
I actually wasn't aware of that.
I mean, like, you mean you weren't aware of it back then, or you just now?
No, I wasn't aware of that back then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a failure of the media and how they get out information, and this idea that, sometimes they criticize certain people more than others?
Actually, no. I think this is actually this is a huge dilemma because this tends to split very cleanly along your t-shirt, and I take your t-shirt to be fairly important in this regard. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. Yeah, if you wanted to see what, yeah, the t-shirt's great for this. No, I think this is a systemic issue, and I think the bullshit about getting into whether this is a Republican issue, or because the implicit in your question is, are we just going after certain people and letting others slip by the wayside? I think that's a huge failure. I regret that I didn't have that information about Obama. I don't fancy myself on either side of the so-called
not a partisan.
aisle. Yeah, not partisan in that way. That's a way simple operation, politically speaking. I think the more difficult challenge is to actually think through what media channels are giving us information, where the information is coming from. I mean, to put this briefly, I think the dilemma right now is one of information literacy. We face a glut of details coming through. And the trick for me is, how do you wade through all this and figure out what's a viable source, what's something worth acting on, what's worth coming out for?
It's tough. I mean, you have to read a lot of sources and cross-reference and stuff like that to find any sort of semblance of truth. Otherwise, you know, a lot of people, they go to imright.com and they try to, you know, confirm their own sort of biases and things like that. But getting back to the topic, obviously there's a crisis going on. What kind of policy do you think should be in place to kind of, what do you think should happen going forward?
With what crisis exactly?
The migrant crisis.
I don't know any sort of a global solution here, so to speak, but I think there are some things that I've heard floated that sound like good ideas to me. For instance, the way the previous Bush administration actually went to the countries that are supplying broken infrastructure, broken economies, broken political police systems, and as a result, citizens that are abandoning in order to come here. I think we need to go to those countries and do a much more robust information campaign. If our borders are closed, people down there need to know that. And as near as I can tell, that hasn't been happening.
You don't think they know that the borders are, it's not legal to cross the border?
No, that's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that the zero tolerance policy needs to be widely advertised if indeed that's going to be U.S. policy. And I don't think that's what's happening. I think they're relying on some sort of like social media circuit and news outlets to kind of lead the charge on informing the bodies who are hurt and who are trying to come here as a result. And as a result of this, I don't think that we have a government that is thinking through this. I don't want to say that our current government is just evil and they just don't care about these individuals and are like, forget it. The more bodies that come here, the more able we are to make our argument for identity politics in the United States and push a nationalist agenda. Oh wait, let me rephrase. And push a nationalist agenda, because if we can show that we're overrun or present the illusion that this is some huge dilemma, then as a result we can talk our way into an ethno-nationalist state where suddenly the reason why we need to hang together and put up walls and so forth is because we have all these individuals coming to us. My point here is that I think the U.S. government at this point, this administration, actually has a good stake in keeping information flows to the countries that are producing these migrants down. Because the fewer people hear about this from bona fide sources, the more likely we are to have more bodies coming here, and that in turn.
You think it's kind of like a conspiracy, like the Trump administration almost wants them to come here to say this is a problem so they can, you know, build the wall, instead of just getting the information out there that, hey, we're going to have a zero tolerance policy and just have less people come overall?
I think the operative word in your sentence is almost. I don't think this is a conspiracy theory. I think this is actually a function of bureaucratic state apparatus, where we're not being ruled by one person, we're not being ruled by many. This isn't a democracy, and it's certainly not a monarchy. It's a bureaucracy, which means rule by no one. I think actually that this is not a consciously thought through thing. I think this is a byproduct of bureaucracy.
Some people say oligarchy.
I think that's a very nice way to think of bureaucracy. The ultimate paper that gets pushed across the desk is money. So there's no doubt about that, but I think that's a separate issue. You ask what could be done here? I think we need to increase information flows, but also flows of support for countries whose
Like foreign
economic,
aid or
political, yeah, absolutely. So I'd say information and money, all forms of paper, from leaflets coming from helicopters down to capital, not capital,
maybe
but
we could
money.
just throw it through like, you know, media channels instead of like physical drop downs of leaflets.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, I'm open to all possibilities of getting the word out. I gotta say,
I've never heard that position before, honestly. Like, as far as, you know, people who are, you know, at protests like this to, you know, sympathize with the families who are being separated, basically saying, let them know it's dangerous to come here, sort of idea.
Yeah, I mean, let them know that we're assholes. I think they already kind of know that, but let them know that we have actually a policy of zero tolerance for everything except assholes. So I think it's important that information be circulated a little more widely, and I think it's very revealing that this is not news. I mean, it's not news that previous administrations who have also been dealing with immigration problems have made a concerted effort to interact with foreign governments, to get the word out through embassies and so forth, that here's our new policy, here's our situation, and I am not seeing that happen. And I want to be really clear, I don't think it's because people are evil, I think it's because people in the administration are fucking idiots. They're just incompetent. And that's a real reality here. I think in some ways, if there's someone sinister here, I want to look at the previous administration, which I voted for time and time again. The amount of warmongering and the increase of executive authority, the widening of the executive branch under Obama, he didn't start that, but he continued it. The sustaining of post 9/11 military practices that Obama was executing and that Trump is now riding in on.
Expanding the, you know, the NSA sort of secret,
Exactly.
you know, surveillance and all that stuff.
I think the greatest trap in a situation like this is to make this all about the current administration. That's bullshit. And what that misses is fundamentally what's also on your t-shirt.
The nuance.
Which is the nuance.
The nuance.
But to your point, man, that you made earlier, I mean, you have to read a lot to wade through all this stuff, to figure out where your position is. And I think you have to be kind of humble too. I mean, I don't know any of this stuff.
And be open to being wrong and just, you know,
But see, that's really difficult to do. I mean, and I sense that when you were bringing up Obama and the 4,000 lost kids, you really got hot and thought, okay, was it that you didn't hear about it then, or that you're only learning about it now? Yeah. I mean, because in a very almost culturally sadistic way, we like to reveal the ignorance in others. And
I think we should, though. It's important.
Yeah, I mean, that's coming from somebody who clearly reads a lot and thinks a lot about stuff. But one of the dilemmas with revealing ignorance is that you actually start shutting down people. I think what we need actually
you do it in a confrontational way. If you're just like, hey, you didn't know about that. I don't think that's how it came about. I was just trying to, you know, ask genuinely.
No. I was just picking up on the affect, because you kind of got a little hot and excited when you.
Did I?
Yeah, you followed up quite quickly. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was curious because I was actually going to ask it earlier and then I forgot, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be absolutely foolish to isolate this or limit this to one administration, and it would be absolutely foolish to limit this to one particular member of the administration. It's much easier to point at an idiot like Donald Trump. I mean, he's such an easy target for this. I mean, the guy is a total goon. It's more complicated than that. And what I want to do at this point, at least for American citizens, is to ask, is there a way for us to dwell in this complexity where our knowledge is limited and our information sources seem endless and still actually make good decisions without resorting to like knee-jerk identity moves or Republican-Democrat hate? I mean, that's just foolish. I want to be really clear, though, too, in all of this. I'm totally disappointed with Democrats these days. I feel like it is a party that has lost its way, the same way that Republicans have lost their way.
Well, did you hear Chuck Schumer's comments about how, you know, when they were talking about Congress should pass legislation to fix this thing, and he said, no, the focus should be on Trump instead of actually passing legislation?
I did not hear that, and I gotta say, if you had put any other name in there, I would say the same thing, which is, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I mean, it's very unfortunate. If there would be a global fix, because you kind of asked about this, for this immigration issue, I would say we would go right to the root cause, which is the voting structure in this country. My thinking on this is voting day should be a national holiday. Everybody gets off work no matter what, so you can show up and actually do your citizenship. It's a shame that citizenry in the United States has been reduced to 1 or 2 days out of the year. It's totally strays from how Jefferson conceived of what it meant to be a member of this republic. And the second thing is just that. The idea that this is a democracy is completely foolish. This is a Republican system, not Republican-Democrat, but old Roman Republican system, which is based on rule by elites primarily, which is why our voting and feedback opportunities have been reduced to just a few days out of the year. I don't think we need to have representatives that can be recalled. I like the idea of having independent representatives, especially in a country that's so large as ours. I think it's important to have independent representatives.
Like justice, like courts and stuff like that?
No, I mean a representative that can be elected, sent to office for a term, and unless they commit some sort of horrible moral malfeasance, they're allowed to execute their consciences and do the right thing there. And then when voting day comes...
I mean, that's kind of what they have terms right now.
Yes.
And you serve and then you get... Are you saying just one term and then you're done or something? Or?
I would actually add that, yeah. I think there should definitely
be like a term limit
sort of limits. But I also think that what we should have is what I would refer to as a radical democracy. And this is one where people are elected to office by lot, by chance. The Greeks had certain positions in their democracy where they worked it this way. If your name came out of the hat, guess what? It was your turn to be mayor of San Francisco.
I don't know if I agree with that. But
a lot of people don't. But if you think about it, this is the only truly democratic way to proceed. One of the only democratic things in our lives is chance. And I think if you actually had chance as the determining variable for who gets elected, you would systematically remove from the running people who are trying to get elected in order to either gain wealth or some sort of cultural capital like power.
That's definitely one way to do it, but thank you so much. I appreciate the interview.
Yep,
cool.
Thanks guys.
And if you ever want to look it up,
yeah, what would I look for?
Yeah, Nuance Bro on YouTube. Basically.
Nuance Bro.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Right. And what will I see if I go there?
My channel, my videos.
Will you see this?
This whole interview, I mean, this is really long. I try not to do like 2-hour-long videos, but I'll always keep it in context. I won't like, chop it up to take you out of context, but yeah, you'll probably be in there, I'm sure. Or
of it in there.
What?
That's the condition, man.
Why?
Because this is my data.
You're
I own this stuff.
I feel like it's not totally relevant necessarily to the whole thing, because I already feel like we have to include a lot of like what happened in this interview in the interview, and I don't know if there's total time for that, because people are going to look at it because the context of this is the event, and if you include the radical democracy stuff, it's kind of separated from the purpose, I feel like. If anything, if you want, I could put the whole interview on Patreon for my supporters, and they can see the full context of it. But
nope, the radical democracy stuff has to be in there if you're going to post it. Because I think
it doesn't
this is
technically. I mean, you already gave consent by giving the interview. But like I said, I'll promise to keep it in context. I may or may not include that. I'm just being honest.
Okay, so here's one option at this point.
Okay.
This camera comes with me.
What?
Yeah. I got 7 people standing around here right now. Yeah, unless you agree to process this interview, there's one of them.
Don't let him swindle you.
Me?
The condition.
Well, dude, that's
for
fucked up, man. I'm telling you, I'll put you in context. I'm keeping everything honest, but you're like threatening me to take my property now.
Well, I want to make sure that this is an honest representation, because honestly,
it is. But I mean, here's the thing:
I don't entirely trust your motives here.
Okay, I mean, you can watch my interviews. I pretty much, out of anyone on YouTube, you can see like most people, they try to dice up things to make someone look stupid or whatever. Yeah. I put people in full context, and I almost take entire chunks that are unedited and just put them up there.
Okay, and all I'm asking is that one of those unedited chunks, in response to your question about what's a global solution here, be the election by lot. Because if you actually, when I said go to the root here, election by lot.
Because here's the thing, when I'm editing and stuff, I don't know what I'm gonna put in there until I do the editing.
Yeah.
And maybe I would have put it in there, but now I'm less inclined because of the threat that you just put towards me.
Okay.
Like I thought we were having a good,
let's cancel the whole thing.
That's kind of fucked up, man.
No, it's fine with me. Let's cancel the whole thing.
What's that?
Can I interject here?
Yeah, totally.
Sure.
There's like, I feel like a simple solution to this.
What is it?
I feel as though you could just send him the video before you
If you want, I could send it to you if you want.
For his approval.
Before
Is that okay?
Oh, you mean
mean,
like my finished
You guys
product?
can
Yeah.
work
You don't want just your whole
together.
interview in case like you feel like I took you out of context. You could be like, hey, this was the full interview and he took me out of context here.
Why don't you send me both files? The full interview.
That's a
and
lot
the
of work
edited
for me
version.
though.
Not
I mean,
really.
That's actually totally legit.
no, here's the thing.
That's a legit
No, 'cause here's the
practice
thing.
in journalism, dude.
The full video, you could obviously download it off of YouTube when it's posted. And then no, but that's not true journalism. Journalists don't go up to the person they interview.
Let's just
I-
do it that
I
way.
actually liked
feel
your
like.
idea.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying.
So what do you think? Are you his producer?
No, look, imagine.
No, I do PR.
Imagine if someone's interviewing Donald Trump, right? Imagine if someone's interviewing Donald Trump and they go up to him and then afterwards he's like, hey, you can't air this unless you put the stuff that I put in there. Would that be a good journalist if they listened to what he said about that?
I'm sorry, I missed it. Are we still part of a consenting interview here? Because my understanding is that the camera is still rolling.
You want to turn it off? It's up to you. I mean, I don't know if you want to.
I think the important thing here is that before you take anything and post it on account of what I've said, I would like to be able to review this file
Well, then
and
you
actually
should have said
sign
that
off
before
on
we
it.
started the interview. I don't know. I don't understand why you're being so hostile. I've literally never had this experience as far as this is concerned.
Okay, so like I said, why don't we just cancel the whole thing?
I can put the part that you want in there if you want.
No, that's okay. Let's just cancel the whole thing. I don't want any of my footage to appear online.
Alrighty.
Okay? Now, I'm giving you an alternate, which is a great one that she proposed. You can send me the edited file, the one that you're considering posting, and more than likely, I'll sign off on it. But
dude, I feel like you're like threatening me right now. You're telling me, I mean, I could literally, I'm not going to, but like you're threatening to take my property, dude.
let's go talk to the cops. Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
That's fine. So officers, I'm kind of freaked out a little bit right now because I was interviewing this guy and then, we're finishing up the interview and then he's threatening to take my property if I don't put up, like when I post the interview, he's saying, if you don't put it up the way I want to, I'm gonna take your camera. Your camera's coming with me. Did you or did you not say that?
What this gentleman is proposing is to crib footage.
I mean, you're the one who proposed we go to the cops. I didn't even want to report this,
Yeah.
but you're threatening me and it's not cool, dude.
For being flagged down by 999-482.
What's the issue? Why are you threatening him?
I'm not threatening
You
him.
didn't threaten me?
Camera?
Come over
Is the
here.
camera?
That's fine.
So what happened?
So, I go up to, protests like this, I interview people. We were actually having a great exchange. It was pretty civil and stuff like that. And then we ended the interview and I was like, yeah, so if you want to check out the video, you can check it out on the YouTube channel. And he was like, hey, I just want to let you know, the only way I'm going to consent to this, going up is if you put up this part of the interview that I put up. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, I've never had someone kind of say like what I have to put in or not. I said I could promise to put you in full context. I may or may not put that specific part in there.
Yeah.
But we're obviously in a public space. You consent it to talking to me. That's how
The whole time he could have said, he could have terminated, said,
But
hey,
then
I'm
he said,
done.
he's like, how about I tell you this? If you don't put that part in there, your camera is coming with me. And I was like, what? Like you're basically threatening to steal my property right now. And he's like, yeah, there's 7 other people right now on my side. Like, I have all this recorded on camera if you guys want to take a look at it, but I don't know, it's kind of freaked out like about just going about the rest of my interviews and stuff and then he was actually suggesting we go to the cops. I'm like, dude, I don't even really want to report you right now, but because I just want us to, deal with this civilly and take care of it. But he was like, okay, we can go to the cops and talk about it. I'm like, if that's what you want to do, man, but I'm just...
I mean, technically, you can't really say, hey, I want, this part. It's whatever you really want because you're going to make the video. Unless he's going to be like, you know what? I don't want this whole video up. If you
Well, that's what he said afterwards, but that's not how consent works. You gave consent. We're in a place, there's no reasonable expectation of privacy. He was talking to me willingly and stuff like that.
But yeah, I mean, towards
how
the
it
end, you could be
goes.
like, hey, you know what? I realize I kind of want to do this anymore. And, through the kindness of, your heart, can you just delete all this type of thing? Surely
Absolutely,
you probably would have. Most likely.
Maybe. I mean, I hadn't really decided what I was going to include or not, and then he started threatening me about taking my property.
So we just talked to him. All we wanted you to do was, he wanted to see a copy of it what you were going to post before you posted it.
That's not exactly
And
what
if-
he said. And I actually offered that. I offered that. I was like, look, I can give you, this
I'm
full
not,
video if you want.
And we weren't there. I mean, we were watching you guys talk.
I have it recorded.
Yeah, no,
so
I
it's
mean,
all there.
we were watching you guys talk. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say what he did or didn't say, but
I mean, it's recorded.
But
so,
right, yeah, but right now, what he's telling us is he just wants a copy of what you're going to post, and then if he's not okay with it, he wants to tell you either do or don't post.
That's not
it.
how journalism works. I mean, he can't, and he
But-
doesn't really have the right to say that. And then on top of that, threaten to take my property. On top of that,
That's what he's saying, and I already told him that right now what we have going pretty much is a civil issue. It's something that we can actually handle, like criminally.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he did directly threaten me. It was like, the definition of a threat. There's 7 other people who are on my side, and if you don't put up what I'm saying, I'm going to take your property.
Yeah.
And it's on camera, recorded audio.
no,
video,
and
everything.
I understand that, and that in and of itself doesn't merit something like terrorist threats, or we could arrest him for something like that. He'd have to say like, hey, I'm going to kill you, this, and this, and then you'd have to believe that he had the ability to do it like right now. So it's still basically he's being difficult. I understand what the problem is, and it sounds to me like he's. Well, I think I don't know. I just started to walk away. But yeah, he seems like he's already okay with the resolution that we came to, and it's basically that he just wants to see what you've posted, and if you refuse, you refuse. He's not going to take your camera away. He's not going to do anything.
Well, that's what he said.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You're not even posting it until later.
Yeah. I mean,
You have all this.
I don't know
You're
what
gonna
I'm
be
going to put in or not. I
editing
haven't
it.
even interviewed everybody I'm going to interview today, so I don't know what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, after I got done talking to him, it seemed like he was cool with the resolution that we came to. It was basically that, hey, you can't take any of his stuff, and if you're unhappy with whatever gets posted, then it's a civil issue, and you have to deal with it that way. So, I think that for the rest of the day, it should be fine. Well, I mean, we're going to be here until this rally is over.
Cool, thank you.
So if there's some other issue, or he actually does come after you, and we happen to see it, or there's some sort of physical altercation, we can handle it from there.
Sure.
But as for now, I'd say it's pretty much squashed.
Cool.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.